The topic of today's marathon training update is pace versus performance. So let's dive right in. Now I am 10 weeks out from my next marathon, which will be marathon number 9. And I'm at that point in the training now where I've got a few longer runs under my belt, and I'm starting to think about where I might be in terms of possible times and paces. Now, I know, based on the volume of training I've been doing recently, that getting close to what would be a PB sort of time for me is likely to be unrealistic, but I still got a good 10 weeks or 2.5 months worth of training ahead of me. Most of that is going to take place during the summer holidays, where I've got a lot more time to build up my mileage and also cross train and recover effectively. I was watching a video the other day of another YouTuber training people for their next marathons, and he spoke a lot about the pace and performance question. So do you go into your marathon training thinking about the pace that you want to run or the performance that you want to put in? So I am looking at a performance based marathon at the moment, which brings up its own challenges. Challenge 1 is, okay, so if you're going for performance, not pace, what pace do you run at? What pace do you train at? What heart rate do you train at, or power? You know, you can't just go out and chug along at the same paces, just sort of increasing the distance. I mean, you can, but it's not the most effective and efficient way to train. So there's got to be a bit of a ballpark, which for me is by following a training plan that's got quite a big window of time to run in. So I'm using currently a chorus training plan, which is a 12-weeker, so not long in terms of marathon training, and it's for runners looking at a 3:15 to 3:35 marathon, and that is pretty much a respectable ballpark number for me to train in. The second challenge when going for a performance-based marathon is nailing the nutrition and going for a nice even split, or even possibly negative split. So that kind of builds on the pacing challenge. So for me, it's going to be that over these next sort of key weeks, when I am doing my long runs, I need to make sure that at the paces that I'm running at, particularly if they're slower, I've got enough nutrition on board. Now this is important, especially if you're maybe running a slower marathon than you have done previously. You're going to be out for longer, you're going to need more nutrition and possibly hydration to think about. And challenge number 3 with doing a performance-based marathon rather than a pace-based marathon is the enjoyment, and trying to make sure that I kind of get out of my own way when it comes to the enjoyment of this marathon training block and the run itself. You know, I'm not going to be running at paces that I have previously done before, and so mentally that can be quite hard, knowing what you used to be able to do versus what you can do right now. There's a bit of a maturity issue around that. There's also a bit of a new to running issue about that. I think if you're new to running, you know, in those first couple of years, your progress is quite linear. You know, you're likely to keep improving just by the fact that you're turning up and doing races, but over time, change of priorities, maybe you switch distances, maybe you try something new for a little bit, you know, that progress is going to be more spiky and not as linear. And so that's something that I'm trying to sort of contend with a little bit, because really my progress has been quite linear over the past couple of years, but recently, this past year in particular, my progress profile has become a lot more spiky. I haven't just been able to just turn up and go a bit faster. I've got to think a bit more strategically now about what I need to do to improve. Now onto the chorus marathon training plans. I'll do a separate video sort of specifically about their plans and how you upload them, how you use them. It's all fairly straightforward. You go onto their website and you've got a range of plans that you can tap into, and you just got to kind of scroll down to find the one that's a bit of a best fit for you. Some are based on pace, some are based on heart rate. You know, there's a whole range, and I've sort of flitted between two. Their longer intermediate marathon plan, just to kind of build some consistency, and now I've switched over to their 12-week plan, which is those people wanting to run a 3:15 to 3:35. Now what I like about this chorus plan is that it's quite simple and easy to follow. Essentially, when you break it down, there are 1 or 2 rest days a week, and that's when I'll do my daily mile. There are 2 or 3 base runs or zone 2 runs, ranging anywhere from sort of 5 to 10k, so they're fairly simple to sort of fit in. And then there are 2 key workouts, one that I would call a kind of medium long run workout, which has more of an interval focus, and then you've got your marathon long run. So just to loop back around to the performance versus pace marathon question. Now this is how I feel I'm able to kind of manage the struggle, I suppose, with knowing that you're not going to run as quickly as maybe you would like to or you'd hope to, and that is simply by having the next event lined up, the next date in the calendar lined up, and then trying to use this as a springboard onto that one. So hopefully if I go out and run a good marathon, have a good training block, then I'll come out of that feeling encouraged, knowing that the next one is just around the corner, and then you can build sort of nicely into that. That's the hope anyway, that's the plan. Whether it works or not remains to be seen. The next videos I put out with the updates on my marathon training will hopefully be taking place out in hot and sunny Spain. So it'll be interesting to see how my body copes and manages with the heat out there, because if you're in the UK, we haven't really had much of a summer yet. A few warm days, but nothing too hot. Let me know if you've got any thoughts or comments below about that question. Pace versus performance. What do you go for when you're training? And is it a question that you have come up against recently? Alright, hopefully see you on the other side in the Mediterranean. Take care for now.